Hi guys, it's Leslie at Agave Farms here. We're going to be going over prepping your garden beds for spring planting today. Your first step is going to be collecting all your tools that you need. So you're going to start with some basic hand tools, and that's going to consist of a trowel, a hand cultivator, a harvesting tool, and a small spade shovel. I actually prefer these little tiny ones, and then a garden hoe, like this, and a rake. So those are the tools that you're going to need. A bucket of fresh compost. Okay, so after we've chosen all of the tools that we're going to be using today, you're going to want to start with evaluating your winter garden and what's left growing in the winter garden. So what we have here is going to be a couple heads of cauliflower that are left over, and a little bit of broccoli and some kohlrabi, and that's all going to be coming out today. So of course, after we've done the evaluation, the second step would be to do the harvest so that we can be removing this and making room for our spring plants. So I'm going to grab a couple tools real quick and show you how to harvest. The cauliflower is actually really simple, especially if you have one of these pruning saws. These are fantastic for harvesting. I highly recommend getting one. You can find them at any hardware store, like Ace Hardware or Home Depot. And so you're just going to start with pushing the foliage back around the crown of the cauliflower. This is an heirloom cauliflower. It's out of Italy. It's called the Jesi heirloom cauliflower. That's why it's so humongous, and that's why it actually is a hint of purple here. It's very, very delicious, nice and sweet, crunchy. So once we've moved our foliage back, you're going to press it down like that. You're going to grab your crown, you're going to grab your saw, and then you're just going to do a quick slice towards you. And a nice even cut like that's going to remove the whole crown like that. So this will go into your bucket or basket or wherever you're putting it in. Move that to the side. And now we're going to be removing this plant here that's no longer needed in the garden. You just wiggle it until it gets loose. It's important to make sure that all that soil that's attached to the roots goes back into the garden, because it's loaded with lots of nutrition and beneficial vitamins for the garden. This will get composted, and so we're just going to toss this to the side over here. And then we're going to just continue to do that all the way down until this is all harvested. Okay, so the next plant that we're going to be harvesting is kohlrabi. This is an above ground vegetable that is what you consume is actually the swollen stem here. So the bulb area is what we're going to be eating. So normally what I do is I just slice them right here, but in this case, since we're going to be removing everything, I'm just going to pull it all the way out by the root here. Shake off all that healthy soil, get that back into our garden. Now, once that's out of the ground, you can just go ahead and cut that root off right here. And then before you consume the kohlrabi, you're going to want to peel all of these pieces of leaves off. They snap off pretty easily. And you're just going to do that until it looks like a potato, basically. And you can slice it and cook it the same way as you do a potato. Very delicious vegetable. Okay, so the third step is going to be deciding what we want to plant, and then the fourth is going to be making room for the new veggies that are going in. So that's basically kind of, as we're harvesting, we're making the room, and that's going to be removing these additional plants here, tilling this bed up a little bit. But for right now, what you want to do is make sure that you know what you want to plant. That's a really, really important step before you prep your beds, so that you know how much room to make. You know kind of how you want the layout to look, you know where you want to plant certain things so that you can companion plant as needed in a more productive way. And so you also want to make sure that you're planting things that you enjoy eating, so that there's not a lot of waste in the garden, because a lot of times people will plant things or too much of something that they don't end up consuming, and it just gets wasted. So think about it. Spend some time to think about what you really enjoy eating the most, and then plant those things. And I always highly recommend using a planting calendar. You can find this on the Urban Farming Education website. And also it should be up on the Agave Farms website very soon. You're gonna wanna go by the date on here. We are facing the end of February. So anything in that category from February 15th through March 1st is what we're gonna be focusing on today. So you have quite a bit of options, which is awesome. And today I think what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be doing a cucumber bed here. So I can show how to cucumber trellis, and we'll be doing some beans at the end and maybe some sunflowers along the end. And we can companion plant with the sunflowers so that they can grow up the stalks of the sunflowers. So that's what we'll be doing here. After you've decided that, you're gonna wanna till the beds a little bit and add some fresh compost, and that's super, super important because you wanna add some fresh vitamins to the soil. You wanna release some oxygen into the soil as well and just mix it up really nicely. So you'll use your hoe and just start to kind of move it back and forth into the soil like this. And we're just loosening up the soil really nicely here, allowing the sunshine to get down in there, allowing the oxygen to get down in there. And you're gonna wanna go back and forth just a couple of times. Remove any weeds that are growing, obviously. If you have really hard native soil and it's not as fertile as this soil, it's highly, highly recommended to add more compost than what you're gonna see me add today. Okay, so another fantastic way to till the garden is with your rake here. You're gonna cover a lot more ground and it's gonna work a lot faster. The hoe is gonna dig in a little deeper, but this is gonna grate the ground a little faster for you. So you're gonna start here and just easy strokes back and forth. Go all the way down. And you can see how much faster this is and how much ground we're covering with the simple movement of the rake here. Now that's pretty much dead or done there in the middle. Your shovel can be used in replace of your hoe if you don't have one, or this is really, really handy in getting your holes prepped for where your seeds are gonna go. I prefer to do a little row like this. And you're gonna want to do this on each side of your drip line. If you don't have a drip line, then you're just gonna create a row like this in your garden bed and pretend that there's a drip line there or something that's a straight line that you can follow. Okay, that's one side that's complete. We're gonna go ahead and do that on all 4 sides here until we've got some nice rows all the way down. Since we've decided to plant cucumber here, we are gonna actually direct sow the cucumber seeds into the ground. There are gonna be some vegetables on your planting calendar that have a T next to it. That's gonna indicate that it's recommended that you use a transplant. And that's when you would be transplanting your plants, like a 4-inch vegetable starter plant, into the ground. With cucumbers though, I recommend, especially if it's in the full sun, go ahead and just direct sow them. I always get a lot of questions on where do I get my seeds? And here is a fantastic company. They're organic. A very fair price, and they're gonna ship to you pretty quickly as well. This is another highly recommended seed company that I use. There's a couple different ways to sow your seeds. I just do mine the very old-fashioned way. I open my seed packet, I sprinkle a few in my hand like this, and I just do it the good old-fashioned way. With cucumbers, you want to do about a 3 to 4 inch spacing. They do get pretty large. You can do even more than that if you want to, but I like to add a little bit more seed just to increase my germination. So I'm going to start here, 1, and then I crisscross, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to go all the way down until I run out of seed. And I crisscross because that's going to allow more space as well for the plants to grow and get nice and mature. Okay, after you've had all your seed planted, obviously I would keep on going, but we're going to wrap this up for you guys so you can get excited and plant in your own gardens at home. This is a composted garden soil that we're going to be using to cover our seeds with. I always use the fresh compost for my seed cover. I sprinkle it right over, and you never want to sprinkle it too deep, just enough to lightly cover your seeds, but at least about 1/4 inch. You're gonna go ahead and do that all the way down until it's complete. All right, just in case you're wondering why should you use a composted garden soil, there's many, many reasons, and the #1 reason is because it's the nutrition that it's gonna add to your garden. It's gonna add overall longevity, better taste to the food that you're growing. more vitamins. It's going to make the soil more fertile. It's going to break up the native soil so that your roots can be extended and dig down deeper, which long-term means that you're going to get longer, taller, stronger, better tasting vegetables. Okay, once we've covered up all of our seeds, the last, well, one more step after this is going to be to water. So we're going to kick on our irrigation. If we don't have irrigation at home, we're going to lightly sprinkle it with a hose. I would just recommend kind of going back and forth with your hose until it's really saturated. You want to make sure that your seeds stay nice and wet through germination. So that's going to mean that you probably want to water every day. Not at a high pressure though, because you don't want your seeds to come up out of the soil. So just a low pressure, even spray to make sure it's nice and wet. It's usually a 7 to 10 day period for germination. After you see your seeds start to sprout, you can continue the heavy watering all the way up until they get a little bit more established, and then you're going to cut back on your water just a little bit. And then the last and final step is going to be just to maintain the garden. So you're going to come through and prune things as needed. And with cucumbers, you're going to eventually want to trellis them so that you can get more fruit production out of them. And that's going to be a whole nother class. I actually have one up last year that we did on Armenian cucumbers, but we'll probably cover it again this year on this. This is a different type of cucumber. These are going to be pickling cucumbers here. Okay, so to cover the 8 easy steps of spring gardening is going to be number 1, evaluate your winter crops. Number 2, harvest your winter crops. Number 3 is making room by removing all the dead foliage. Number 4 is going to be deciding what to plant. 5, hand tilling the beds. 6 is sowing the seeds and covering with the fresh compost. 7 is watering, and 8 is maintaining the garden. Okay, this was part of our educational series on our urban farming education page on YouTube, and you can find more of them on the YouTube channel. Please like and subscribe for more.